Texas and Georgia, and Horns at half past. And let me just say, when you look at the statistical comparison of Texas of the quarterbacks, both have made about the exact amount of starts in their careers, right? I think Gunnar Stockton started 11 games. I think Arch is now about to start 12 on Saturday. And this year, passing yards, Arch has a few more than Gunnar Stockton. 2,123 for Arch. Gunnar Stockton 2,040. Completion percentage for Gunnar Stockton, a little bit better, almost 69.4%. Arch is down there at 63%, but we know he had some early struggles with accuracy. That If you look at his completion percentage in the last 5 weeks or 4 weeks since Oklahoma, it's been a lot better. But yes, he a little more accurate so far for Gunnar Stockton. Arch has accounted for 24 total touchdowns. Gunnar, 22.
Okay.
Arch has thrown 6 interceptions, but not one in about a month.
Yeah,
after the rough September, Gunnar Stockton's only thrown 2 all season. And then the quarterback rating goes to slight advantage Gunnar Stockton, 153.4 to 146.9. And so let's hear from both head coaches. I thought this was a very interesting answer. Kirby Smart was asked this week about what Gunnar Stockton has brought to his team. Like, what has his quarterback play brought? And I thought one of his adjectives he used is pretty insightful about what he thinks of his young quarterback.
Toughness. He's brought wisdom. He's brought consistency. He's made good decisions with the ball in terms of keeping us out of bad situations. I mean, you look at it, he's avoided quite a bit of sacks. He's avoided catastrophic things like turnovers, and he's made plays with his legs, and he's made plays with his arm. So, I mean, I think he is he's improved throughout the season, and continues to do that, then it's going to make us very hard to defend when he plays well.
All right, so I love that answer. Toughness was what he led with, and then wisdom was number 2, which I think is wisdom. That's not the adjective I would expect it to hear from Kirby Smart, but which means to me he's wise beyond his years. He's only a young guy, but still plays very smart for our football offense, and only 2 interceptions, as I mentioned. That's an interesting answer, and he's tough. He's tough as nails. And I think Georgia fans, and we are going to talk to our friend Kaylee Mansell next hour from DogNation.com. I'm going to ask her this point blank. Do you think Gunnar Stockton has been an upgrade over Carson Beck?
That's a fair question.
And maybe even a little bit of an upgrade over Stetson Bennett, who led them to 2 national championships as far as his overall athleticism.
Right, just they don't have that defense when Stetson Bennett was there, obviously.
Well, I mean, gosh, you might have been able to quarterback Georgia to a championship with that defense. Good Lord. Would they give up 6 points or 7 points a game?
Yeah,
I mean, can you get
ridiculous.
to 10? If you get to 10, we're going to win. As for Arch and Sark, let's hear from Sark on the improvement and growth of this offense. And really, we've seen it. Arch, a lot of those stats that I mentioned, the negatives came in September and even in the Florida game. But with what Texas is right now, boy, those last 4 games, and both of these quarterbacks have had to bring their teams back.
Mm-hmm.
Auburn was up 10-0 on Georgia in the second half. Gunnar Stockton had to bring them back. Ole Miss went into the between the hedges and scored touchdowns on 5 straight possessions, and they had to rally and outscore them 17-0 in the fourth quarter. They've seen these games where you have to bring your team back, and heck, even in the bad performances for Texas's offense, Arch had them battling to try to go tie the game against Florida, tie the game against Ohio State. So there's both are proven to be battle tested and tough as nails, and I think that's something both coaches can hang their hat on. That these guys are going to battle. These guys are going to battle to win. Listen to Sark this week when asked about the improvement of his offense through the month of October and now into the bye week.
I mean, what I'm happy about is that we're evolving and getting better as the season's moving on, and that's a credit to those players of working at their craft and trying to improve and trying to get better at whether it's understanding timing or making plays on the ball or trusting his speed in Wingo's case to really be electric with the ball in his hands. And so that's just the growth that I think a young offensive football team's had to go through some of those growing pains. But we're kind of getting on the other side of it. Now we need to continue to play better than that. And that's the key for us, is that we can't rest. Now we got to keep pushing and striving for more.
I thought this was an interesting answer from Sark when asked about, from your 2 losses were on the road. Your offense struggled in both, and you had the ball, yes, and a chance to try to win the game late. But what have you learned with your team with those losses on the road that has to be better? Because you did become the road warriors. Go up to Dallas, Lexington, Mississippi State, finding ways to win. What did you learn, and what did your offense learn about improvement on the road in these tight situations?
Red zone efficiency offensively. I think, too, the ball. We didn't win the turnover battle in either of those games. So those are two main components there. I do think in both those games there were things to take away from that I was proud of. I thought our guys showed great poise and composure late in both of those games where we got the ball with an opportunity to either tie or go win those games. Now, we didn't capitalize, but I think we learned a lot about ourselves and our fight. Even though we were probably a more immature team at those times, I think those games helped us later in the year when we were in some of those other tighter games on the road. So ideally, starting a little faster will help us. But again, this game's going to take all 60 minutes. It doesn't matter who gets the lead early, as we found out playing these guys in the past. This is going to be a 60-minute game.
All right. So I don't think anybody disagrees with that, right? I mean, this thing's probably, even the game here in Austin last year when Quinn Ewers got benched and got sent to had to come sit because things were getting out of control. They did have the ball and a chance, or they needed one stop to get the ball back and a chance to win that game. And obviously the second matchup went to overtime. One more from Kirby Smart in this quarterback conversation and offensive conversation. Here is Kirby on what he has seen from Arch Manning on tape so far.
Yeah, he's playing with more confidence. I think number one, he's getting better protection. He's seeing things well. He's making good decisions. He's getting the ball out of his hand quickly. He's maturing. He's had an opportunity to play and grow, and you don't really get that until you get out there and play. He played a good bit last year, but the kind of games he's had to play in this year, just a different stature in terms of the SEC gauntlet. And just, you watch game by game. I watched yesterday each game throughout the year and watched him just grow and play better. He's extending plays. He's doing really well with scrambles, keeps his eyes downfield. He doesn't look at the rush. He's made some really impressive wow throws, and they're playing better offensively.
All right, there's Kirby Smart. And interesting question I'll have, and maybe someone will ask Sark this at his availability tomorrow, the Zoom, and he's on the conference call today with the SEC media. Is there going to be a limit on how much Arch can use his legs?
Yeah.
Because he did have a concussion back at Starkville. That's one to, but you also need it, right? Because here's the thing. Because for Georgia, along with their healthy running back room, which includes Nate Frazier, who rushed for $181 last week at Starkville, their offensive line looks just as good, if not better, than the group they fielded last year. Texas, meanwhile, comes in with the game's arguably the best defense in the country against the run.
Sure.
That makes for a hellacious trench battle. But the task the Longhorns have is evening that out on the other side. They've got to figure out how to run the football with some level of consistency on first and second down, right? This is the defense in Georgia. They don't sack the quarterback as much as they're used to. They don't. They do give up some passing yards, but they do have a defense that ranks in the top 15 against the run. And they're allowing 94 yards per game on the ground, barely 3 yards per rush in SEC play. And, of course, Texas running backs rank last in the SEC right now in rushing yards per game at just 84. Now, Texas has used that quick passing game to kind of extensions of the run game to their wide receivers like Ryan Wingo. But, look, here's the thing. They're last in the SEC, but Trey Wisner, I think Longhorn fans can have optimism that he can get it done in big games, right? His best games, the junior from DeSoto, Ohio State, 80 yards on 16 carries. Oklahoma, 22 carries, 94 yards, and 5 receptions for 35. Vanderbilt, 18 carries, 75 yards. And that's where we're at. You're not going to get 18 carries and 180 yards against Georgia's defense ever. But can you get 75, 80, 90? Can C.J. Baxter throw in another 20, 25?
Right.
Because and how much will they let Arch run becomes a huge question for me in this game, right? I mean, would you be concerned of Arch taking off and running 3 weeks post-concussion?
No, I wouldn't. I think the fact that he played in that game, maybe they needed him to against Vanderbilt, kind of speaks volumes of where he was. You had a week to rest, and again, I mean, I'm not a doctor here, but no, I think you have to utilize those legs. If you want to win this football game, you got to go at all facets of how you can win the football game, and that is one of the ways, is you let Arch run, because they're going to have that on the other side of the ball. We know that's what Gunnar Stockton does too. I mean, he's a mobile quarterback, and that's what he does when he gets scrambled. He can run out, and I think that's going to be crucial if Arch is able to do that and not limited. If he's not limited, then they'll let him run.
You know who really wouldn't care about his quarterback running if he's got a concussion? They're worried about is the fired Brian Daboll.
Well, that's true.
He would go ahead and let that rip, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would let it rip 3 minutes after the fact, not three weeks.
Yeah.
Right. A little bit different.
Can we hear from Kirby Smart talking about this No, they're not going to let me do it. We'll do it. Come on. We had Kirby talk about Texas' front seven and what because
Yeah.
he
I want to hear what he has to say about that because I bet you he's a little jealous of that front seven.
Well, it kind of looks like his that he used to have.
Right, exactly.
And don't get me wrong. It's like Georgia didn't have dudes. I mean, they got
Right, they got guys,
they got
but-
3 NFL linebackers, 3 dudes, but they don't have the war daddies up front like Jalen Carter, like Michael Thompson, like Jalen Walker. Those guys.
That's what
are
our
all top
Colin
15
Simmons
picks.
is here and whatnot. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Colin Simmons is going to be a top 5 pick when he comes out. Anthony Hill. These guys getting after it and getting after quarterbacks. Ethan Burke's playing at a high level.
He is.
That's what Georgia had, where they just overwhelm you. But this is a Georgia team that sees that type of athlete in practice all the time.